Hi and welcome to this week's UMIP Community Review call. This week we have two UMIPs up for review, both resubmissions from last week. Let me just get these up on my screen. The first one we have is Magic USDC and Magic ETH price identifiers. Last time I think this was missing a price feed and implementation details. Do we have that added in now?
We have some details regarding instructions in the implementation section, though some of them are lack some of consistency that should be fixed, and also in the price feed implementation it should be added the configuration that's consistent with these instructions. But yeah, apart from that, there are no other comments.
I can see that you added in some comments a few minutes ago. Are we good to go on this if comments are addressed?
Yeah, absolutely. So subject to these being addressed, that should be go.
Cool. So that's a go with GitHub comments addressed. Now the next one was the optional callbacks and event-based requests. This was also requiring implementation details, I believe.
No, I think what it required was deployments on other chains. That part was still missing, and I understand that's still being worked on. But as a condition, this can be also a go.
Okay, so that's still outstanding. So we've got a go with additional chain deployments added in.
Right.
Excellent. That was our only two MIPs for discussion this week. Anything else people would like to bring up? Chandler, it's nice to see you on the call.
Yeah, I submitted an implementation doc earlier today. Fairly straightforward. I wanted some feedback on it. Also, Rainus, this is actually a good time for us to maybe just brainstorm for like a couple of minutes exactly how we want to work with these implementation docs moving forward. There's been a few side conversations just around how we improve the actual process and what we're willing to work on. So yeah, first, just a bunch of feedback on that actual implementation doc, and then more generally, how do we want to approach implementation docs moving forward?
Yeah, well, one general question is I'm not fully understanding how this implementation is referencing several price identifiers, like for example, using general KPI, yes or no query, and the token price. Is it like choosing one or another depending on implementation? Because on deployment you would need to point only to one price identifier.
Correct. And so the one that'll be pointing to at deployment is the general KPI option, but the behavior of the actual option is twofold. One is there's this early expiry condition. That early expiry condition is if there is this subjective point where the protocol pays out hacked funds with stablecoins. So at that point, the yes no query logic will apply in the general KPI option identifier. If the options if the yes no query comes back yes, it's early the tokens are early expired and to a value of 0. If at the point of expiry the early request has either been no or has not been yes, basically it's no or it hasn't been asked, then the options will expire using the meter token price as the input.
Okay, I understand. So yeah, then for meter, does it means to be used in a similar fashion like the token price identifier? Yeah, all right. Because
The only concern I had with the token price identifier, Rainus, was that the meter token only has 2 liquid exchanges.
right.
And so constructing a price feed for that would not have been viable. So I
Yes,
opted
but
for using-
two would be also good. But do you have already that configuration example set, or that's still to be added?
I used CoinGecko's API endpoint instead of a token price config.
Oh, so it's not meant to be precisely used as in token price feed specifically, right?
No, the accuracy of what we need here is generalized, not really hyper-specific.
Okay. Yeah, well, as a general principle, yeah, I believe that could work out. Yeah, maybe just removing reference to token price identifier, because that's not necessarily like needed here if it's not utilizing this specific price feed configuration.
Sounds good. I can do that.
Yeah, and the payout function is meant to be like stepwise, depending on where the price stands, right?
Correct.
All right.
What
Okay.
happens if it's below 10?
It's the floor.
So if it was below 10, it would expire to this value.
Correct.
You mean to 0, or?
No, so anything 10 and above is the next step. Anything 10 and below is the first step.
Okay, yeah.
So it's considered a floor. I should make that explicit.
Yeah, probably.
Yes. Cool.
Yeah. Any other particular difficulties you had on this that should be like maybe made easier?
Yeah, it was really just the first time we had this conditional logic built into an implementation doc. Do we think using multiple identifiers makes sense? Like we reference the logic and like it's basically an embedded identifier where we're using one identifier that calls 2 other identifiers. Is that the right methodology we should go about, or should we just build the logic out individually every single time?
Well, as long as it reduces amount of new instructions to be written, I believe that makes sense. The only thing that mentioning token price identifier is a bit misleading as it's not used, and because for CoinGecko we have had also similar like implementations used in other implementations, and now that we have this like repeated several times, I would believe at some point of time it would make sense to make maybe specific price identifier for CoinGecko, or alternatively just a module of instructions that you link to. For example, you have a link that's already the same, contains the same instructions for how to resolve CoinGecko, and then you can just shorten each of these implementations, as you don't need to repeat that text over and over again.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good.
But for this one, I think that should be okay to repeat those.
Cool. That was the points I wanted to talk about.
Great.
Any other issues people would like to raise?
Sorry I joined late, but what was the outcome on the treasure UMIP?
Which UMIP?
The magic, the treasure DAO magic price identifier.
It was go with conditions that the GitHub comments were addressed.
Yes, there were some of inconsistencies in implementation that needs to be addressed, and adding price feed configuration for price feeds. But apart from that, that should be good to go.
Cool. Thank you.
Cool. If there's no other issues, then thank you to everyone for turning up.
All right, thank you.
You.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.